Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering this weekend's Premier League fixtures. We'll discuss Atletico Madrid dropping points as they drew to Real Sociedad. We'll discuss this World Cup qualifying window for Brazil. Big World Cup qualifying window for them with the difficulties that they went through this period. So we'll talk about that. Also, Vinicius being out for the World Cup qualifiers. We'll discuss Pochettino, his first international window. The training has already began. You hear reports or Anthony Robertson saying that the training has already become more intense already. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my reactions to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear your input. Your input is a big part of what makes this show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, thoughtful question, or an opinion, you just have to share. Don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. And if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to the gsmcpodcast.net to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We do have to start off though with this weekend's Premier League fixtures. We'll do a review. We didn't get to do that yesterday. We had other things that we needed to discuss. We did discuss the Villa Man United game. We did also discuss the Brighton United game or Brighton Tottenham game. But there was also some other very interesting fixtures. Liverpool, they got that 1-0 win over Crystal Palace. Early goal from Diego Jota was enough for Liverpool. And they continue to really, validate themselves as legitimate title contenders. The mentality of them. It's a brave mentality that they have. It's a winnings mentality. No, not Liverpool. I'm talking about It's a winning mentality. It's a brave mentality, and again, Arne Slot has picked up exactly where Jurgen Klopp has left off. By the way, Crystal Palace away was a fiction that they struggled last season. They lost 1-0 with that goal from Eze. Late on into that season, it was really, the game that, derailed Liverpool's title hopes of last season's that turned it around to their their odds last season when they went away to Crystal Palace and they suffered that. Or I believe that loss was actually at home. Yeah, it was at Anfield. It was at Anfield. I'm mistaken. But this time around, Liverpool wasn't the most dominant of games. Didn't have those clear-cut opportunities. But it was very comfortable. You never thought they were in huge danger, I do have to say. Liverpool, they never looked like they were going to concede. They really didn't have to get out of second gear. And it's the consistency in their performances. I believe this is now 9 wins from 10 for Arne Slot now. They're building that sort of consistency within this team. And look, right now they find themselves first place in the Premier League through 70 games, and they've deserved it. They play some good football. They defend really, really well. They have the best defense in the Premier League when you look at goals conceded. They've only conceded 2 goals this season, and the closest one to them is Nottingham Forest, and Arsenal have conceded 6. They have only conceded 2 goals all season. They conceded one in that game against Nottingham Forest where they lost, and then they conceded a goal to I believe it was to Wolves. Other than that, they've only and then they had that one goal. They've only conceded 3 goals in 10 appearances so far this season. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me do the math actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, only conceded 3 goals in 10 games if you include Premier League and Champions League. For that defense, it looks very, very stable. They're still playing willing, open football. I'm very, very impressed with Liverpool. So good result for them. Arsenal 3-1 win over Southampton, and you know what? A little bit more nervy than I expected this game to be. I do have to say, much more nervy than what I expected this game to be. It was a nervy game. The last Premier League against Leicester, it took that late winner. Late winner. I believe it was from Calafiori on the set piece against Leicester. It was the ball played on the back post on the corner kick and ricocheted. And no, it was an own goal actually from Ndidi. Calafiori was nearest in it. This time, Southampton, they go up, it was a stalemate at first half. Southampton, they take the lead in the 55th minute, and you're thinking, uh-oh. Then Arsenal, they bounce back from conceding that goal in supreme fashion. Kai Havertz, clutch moment for him, clutch goal. And once that goal came, it just completely shifted the momentum. The Arsenal players started playing with more joy, started playing with more of a spirit going forward. And in Southampton, they played a good game. They're defensively solid, and especially in that first half before ironically Southampton scored the goal. But they really had no answer during that period. When Arsenal started sustaining pressure, it was a dull first 50 minutes or so for Arsenal. But I believe when they took that punch, getting caught on the counter attack, was Cameron Archer's goal. It just seemed like that was the spark that needed to ignite Arsenal. And then they had a wonderful game. The crowd started the wonderful period. The crowd started getting into it. And yeah, I do have to say though, Arsenal need to be careful with these, sort of being on the fine line, because these are the sort of games, the Leicesters, now this one. Eventually, some of these games could lead to drop points. So it's something that they do have to be careful if you're an Arsenal supporter. Brentford 5-3 win over Wolves. Wow, it was a very fun game to watch. Wolves just too open, man. Just way too open. Wolves are way too easy to play against defensively. And, Brentford, they create a lot of opportunities just by history, just by, what we've seen so far this season. I believe they're leading in the Premier League in terms of expected goals. Now, they don't really have that huge quality in the attacking end to be clinical, but they create a lot of clear cutout opportunities, a little bit like Tottenham. But Wolves, they're just they're just entirely way too open to play against. Way too open. They're too easy to play against. If you got a team that has pace in transition, that can move the ball quickly, that could take advantage of space, they'll take it. And Wolves, they created opportunities of their own. They have a good footballing unit. It's just they're way too open, and I think it's a criticism. In my opinion, it's a criticism of Gary O'Neill, who I believe could be under some pressure. He could be under some serious pressure. And then their set pieces, they fired their set piece coach. Set pieces, they're not good enough. Defending set pieces is woeful. City 3-2 win over Fulham. Good, obviously great result for them. You had You had Fulham, they took the lead. Good response. Kovacic getting a brace. How many times have you seen Kovacic get a brace? Jeremy Doku seals it with a really, really good goal to make it 3-1. Jeremy Doku has really blossomed since he's become a City player. Rodrigo Muniz, he got that goal in the 88th minute to, make it interesting coming down to the wire. But overall, City doing a City best. And I believe this might be Erling Haaland's... No, Erling Haaland did not score against Newcastle. So, yeah, I thought this was Erling Haaland's first game without a goal for City, but no, he hasn't scored. First Premier League game without a goal for City, but no, he hasn't scored. He didn't score against Newcastle. So yeah, there's that. Oh, let's skim through the rest of these games. So West Ham 4-1 win over Ipswich. I thought Ipswich was gonna be in this game more than that they were. Overall, Wolves just had a lot more quality, and that early goal from Mikel Antonio made it a little bit more simple. Liam Delap, he was able to equalize, but yeah, I just believe the quality for West Ham got through. Leicester 1-0 win over Bournemouth. These are the sort of games that Leicester are going to need to, pick up their results. These 50-50 battles, especially playing these games at home against opposition that, not the fiercest of opposition in the Premier League. These are the sort of games that they need to pick up, 3 points, 1 point, and they have the belief, that they're going to stay in the Premier League. They have that, they're they're former Premier League champions, so that little bit of belief helps them in these sort of games to get results, and I think these are the sort of games that will keep them up. A great result for them. Everton 0-0 draw with Newcastle. Good result for Everton. Newcastle, the struggles continue. They had a decent start, didn't play the best football, but decent start. Last few games had that bad loss to Fulham, got a good one, draw against City, but then now you're dropping points to Everton team, not the strongest Everton team, and Newcastle didn't really dominate that game as well as much as I expected them to. Didn't really create that many clear-cut opportunities against an Everton team that has its weaknesses. But another point for them, I believe that's 4 points or 5 points in the last 3 games. It's getting better from the horrible start they had to the season. That was so we talked about Villa playing United, Brighton taking on Tottenham. Chelsea, Nottingham Forest finished 1-1, and I have been very, very critical on my Chelsea team, but I do have to say, despite this 1-1 result, I thought Chelsea played pretty well. I thought we created a lot of clear-cut opportunities. I thought we were very pleasing to watch. I thought we had a good response to conceding to Chris Wood, Marieke, getting that equalizer, really, really good goal. He's having a very good season. I thought we created some, good opportunities. I thought overall we played a pretty good game. We were able to control the ball. We played good attacking football, and Forest, they were willing to come at us well. So for the neutrals, a really, really good game. We also had some, melees in stoppage time. I thought everything about this was a good showing for the Premier League, and despite the drop points for Chelsea, dropping points at home is never, should never be accepted as a Chelsea supporter. But overall, the performance, I have to say, is pretty solid. And if you told me before this season that we would be in the top 4 through 7 games, would be 4th place with 14 points from 7 games, I would tell you, that's not horrible. That's not the worst thing in the world, not the worst start in the world. I do have to say, Cole Palmer, he's having a brilliant season. Now he's up to 6 goals, validating, how good he was last season, reiterating his brilliance. I'm all for it. And yeah, short break here, guys, coming up. When we come back, you will react to Atletico Madrid trapping points as they drew to Real Sociedad.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a
wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit, I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant, I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed this weekend's Premier League fixtures. We move on to react to Atletico Madrid. They have dropped points and they have drew to Real Sociedad. They have drew to Real Sociedad, 1-1 draw for Atletico Madrid. Julian Alvarez opened up the mark within the first minute. Probably his best moment since he's arrived at the club at Atletico Madrid. Has been a little bit of a slow start for him, but to get the goal in that fashion, how early, doing it away as well, with the adrenaline of playing an away game. I thought really great goal for him and something he can continue to build on after that international window. But then, they got that early goal, and, sometimes that could be the worst thing that could happen to a team like Atletico Madrid, who have the tendencies under the manager that they have, in which you get a goal that early and you start off with an advantage. We know, Diego Simeone, he has his defensive nature and instincts, and when you basically start off the game with a goal, it just completely changes it up. You naturally become more pragmatic, just trying to defend what you've gotten it from the moment. You're like, oh, this is a gift. Let's protect it with everything we got. And it just pushed Atletico further and further and further back. I thought Real Sociedad, they really dominated this game. Keep in mind, this was an Atletico Madrid. This was an Atletico Madrid team that's coming off that 4-0 defeat at to Benfica in the Champions League midweek. So they're in a little bit vulnerable position, and they get that goal early. They're thinking, okay, let's just defend this. And yeah, it was, in my opinion, this was a game that Atletico Madrid could have ended off in the first half if they continue to go at the throats of Real Sociedad. Now, Real Sociedad, we know historically, or not, I don't know historically actually, but within my football watching lifetime, they've been a formidable team in La Liga. They're in Europe, occasionally in the Champions League, it's common to see them in the Europa League. They're in that area. This is a Real Sociedad team that's currently 15th in the Premier League. I mean, in La Liga. They've won only 2 of their first 9 games. It's not, it's a Real Sociedad that's, a little bit weak. They're playing in the Europa League this season, but so far they've had a bad start to La Liga, and they're in a vulnerable position. And, when you get that goal early, you could really, suffocate them. But instead, Atletico Madrid, moved their block steadily lower and lower and lower, and invited the pressure from Real Sociedad and allowed Real Sociedad to control possession, to dictate play, to control the tempo of the game. And eventually it took a while, because there is that little bit of lack of, not lack, but the momentum is not there with Sociedad. It's not been so far a decent start for them. So there's that little bit lack of confidence, and they couldn't get that breakthrough earlier. But eventually it came. It was a moment of magic too, from a player I really, really rate in Luka Sucic, the Croatian international. I think he's a really, really good player, and he's a player that can get into that midfield for the Croatian national team soon. Like, when I mean get in, start. I think he has real qualities, and it was a wonderful goal. Wonderful goal. The technique, the quality, the way he hit it. It was a sensational goal. And sometimes, and that's the thing, Atletico with us, that's the thing, when you're at Atletico Madrid, you're sitting back, you're observing pressure constantly, and you're trying to make it difficult for the opposition. Okay, you have a very, very good defensive unit. You can park the bus and have a really, really good defensive unit and don't give up clear-cut opportunities, within, near the box or, within the 6-yard area. But when you're defending and you're observing pressure that long, you leave you susceptible to, the long-range strike or a set-piece opportunity. Even if you, play a really, really low block and defend really, really well, you could still concede a goal like that, a wonder goal like that, or this, a set piece opportunity. There could still be moments that, that's why it's important to go after the games, to be the protagonist. And I'm a manager. I mean, I'm not a manager. I'm a person that appreciates the beauty of defensive football. Jose Mourinho is my favorite manager of all time, believe it or not. I appreciate the beauty of defensive football. But when you have the quality that Atletico Madrid have, and you're going up against, if you're going up against Real Madrid or, a good team in the Champions League, I understand it. But if you're going up against a team that you have more quality than that you've gotten off a great start to, and you could really finish the game, and you have the ability to go up and down with them, and you have more quality, you need to have a balance. And if you're gonna be defensive like Atletico Madrid is, okay, at least have that ruthless nature to them in transition. But the problem with Atletico Madrid, even when they're playing weaker sides, they have, they're compact, they have a really, really low block, but they don't expand into counter quick enough. What happens is they're forced back, they get pushed back. Griezmann is having to drop into his own box to defend, and whenever Atletico Madrid finally regain the ball, they're not able to play out because there's nobody up forward for that out ball. The person, one of the players that's supposed to be there out ball, he's defending in the box, and you're having to clear the way straight to a Real Sociedad player and have to do the cycle over and over again. That's the thing. You're gonna play this sort of defensive football, that's fine, but have your way to be able to counter off of it so that you're a threat going forward, so that you can take advantage of the quality of players like Griezmann, Alvarez, Sorlos, who came off the bench again. And by the way, how many different combinations are we going to see between Griezmann, Alvarez, Sorlos? I've seen literally every combination between them three. I've seen Griezmann with Sorlas, I've seen Sorlas with Alvarez, I've seen Griezmann with Alvarez. I've seen every single combination. I've seen all three of them play. He tried that against Real Madrid. He played all three of them. That's how he started off. And he sacrificed one of the one of the defenders in the back five to get that extra attacker on in that game against Real Madrid. When are we going to get a consistency? It's hard for the team, for the attackers to get, chemistry together when there's a different player that they're playing with. It's hard for the rest of the team to have a cohesion with the attack when Diego Simeone is constantly changing it up. They need to have a consistency in terms of the combination of between Alvarez, Griezmann, Sorlas, which two of those three start. Or if you want to start all three, then remove, stop playing the back five, play the four at the back, the three midfielders, and play with the front three of Alvarez, Griezmann, Sorlas. Whatever Diego Simeone decides, he just needs to keep it consistent so they can build a consistency, a rhythm going forward. Because right now, they don't have that rhythm. They don't have that consistency. They don't have that cohesion in the attack. And a lot of it does have to do with half the time that they're having to come back and defend because of the way that they're playing as well. I don't really know what much to add. besides that, short break here coming up though. When we come back, we will discuss how big this World Cup qualifying window is for the Brazilian national team.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Atletico Madrid dropping points as they drew to Real Sociedad. We move on to discuss this World Cup qualifying window, the impact of this World Cup qualifying window for the Brazilian national team. We know they find themselves in a vulnerable position, finding their fifth place in the Copa America, the World Cup qualifiers for Carambol. They've disaster start for them. Standards was 3 wins, a draw, and 4 losses. They had a poor qualifying window this past window. They had that uninspiring, dreadful win over Ecuador, and then they had that loss against Paraguay. Very, very disappointing loss to Paraguay, where they went away at Asuncion, and yeah, it was a poor result for Brazilian national team. You see that hesitation I had. It was still that game disgusts me as a Brazilian national team fan. It was really dreadful, and yeah, we know 6 teams automatically go through in CONMEBOL now with the new format. The 7th team goes into an interconferential confederation playoff. And Brazil, they find themselves in 5th place, but they're tied with 6th place, and they only find them a point ahead of 7th place Paraguay and 8th place Bolivia, with those two on 9 points. So it's really, really tight, and it's really sad the position we find themselves. Brazilian national team find themselves in 8 games through the window. 8 games through the window. There's 16 games this CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying period. So we're halfway through, and it's not been good enough. The one saving grace, if you do have for Brazil, is the games you have this window are against the bottom feeders of CONMEBOL. Chile is an old unit being managed by Ricardo Gareca that has a lot of players that are just way over it. Players we saw CONMEBOL America. These are the same players we saw Chile's golden generation that won multiple Copa Americas. The Islas, the Eduardo Vargases, the Alexis Sanchez's. This Chilean team just lacks the quality of past Chilean teams. They're nowhere near at the level. Peru, they're a shocking team. They're terrible for their standards. They're nowhere near the really good Peru team that made the World Cup in 2018. They're at a really low point. So those are two teams, in my opinion, pretty the low points of CONMEBOL. And Brazil gets to take on Chile. They have to go away to Chile, and then they take on Peru at home. I do have to say, anything less than 6 points in these two games will be a complete unmitigated disaster. And I do have to say, I'm surprised that Dorvel Jr., the pressure is not mounted on him. We hear a little bit here and there in terms of criticism, but the pressure is, there's no huge criticism right now I'm seeing from the Brazilian media. I'm really, really surprised, because, again, since he's taken over for Brazil, yes, he had that initial international window in Europe where they had that, win against England at Wembley and then that draw against Spain. But since then, poor in Copa America, poor in World Cup qualifiers, the pressure needs to mount. It doesn't need to mount, but the pressure will arrive for Dorviel, and it's a critical international window, and Brazil, they'll be doing this international window without the likes of Vinicius Jr., who has suffered a knock and will not be available for Brazil with the neck injury. This is a Vinicius Jr. that quite frankly is nowhere near the Vinicius Jr. that we see for Real Madrid for the Brazilian national team. And it's important now, Brazil, still Neymar still not back. It's important for the emergence of what we've seen from Rafinha out of Barcelona. It is beyond important that Brazil needs to see that player. Brazil needs that sort of quality player, a player like that, a direct player like that, that can create for himself and create for others. There's that lack of dynamism in the attack, and the Rafinha we've seen at Barcelona, who's been the best player at Barcelona this season, one of the best players in the world this season. Great football, playing off that left-hand side, being a little bit more direct because he's not really cutting in onto a stronger foot. He's not having to do that. He's going more direct and trying to get shot off, from different angles, going directly at the goal. We're seeing a little bit different element of him. He's also going a little bit, playing centrally, interlinking with Lewandowski. We need him to have a major role within this team being around. Because look, let's be honest, I do have to say, the Rafinha we seen at Barcelona, that is a Brazilian national team player. That is a player that can get in, that is of the quality to be starting for a Brazilian national team. In what we've seen. But the problem is we haven't seen that Rafinha for Brazil, and to be honest, we haven't seen that Rafinha, period, consistently. But if he can continue what he's done at Barcelona, and he can bring it to Brazil, and he can have that that breakout international window. This is a Rafinha that can really that can really battle for a start and solidify his start to be starting for this Brazilian national team. I really believe that, because look, Vinicius has not done anything be locked in for this Brazilian national team. He has not done enough to be locked in. Into this Brazilian national team. He has not done enough. You have his own Real Madrid teammate Rodrigo saying Brazil need Neymar to win the World Cup, and he's still the best player. This is Rodrigo, not just a Vinicius Junior's teammate of Brazil, but Vinicius Junior, Real Madrid teammate, coming out saying Brazil needs Neymar to win. Vinicius, and it's the truth, Vinicius Junior has not done enough for the Brazilian national team. He has not done enough. He looks a shell of himself. I repeat, he has 5 goals in 35 caps for Brazil. That's a goal in every 5 games. That is not good enough. That is not a Ballon d'Or type of player that we see him for Real Madrid. Think about all the big goals and assists and moments he has in those Champions League, in those knockout stage games. Where are those moments for Brazil? He goes invincible. He's not there. So for me, Rafinha has every chance to battle Vinicius Junior and potentially send him on the bench. Because look, if we can get that electricity that we see from Rafinha playing on the left hand side at Barcelona, if we can see that for Brazil in this international window, why not continuing to let him operate from there? And if Vinicius Junior wants to find a spot into the team, then he has to earn his way back in, or he has to go play on that right hand side if he can play, if he's can find himself comfortable doing that. Because quite frankly, he's not been good enough for Brazil. Now Neymar, he's not going to be back for this international window. He's still trying to settle into full training for Al Hilal. But his emergence back into this national team is going to be important. The quality, the big thing is the creativity, the ability to play in tight spaces, the attention that he will attract. Even if he's not the prime ultimate Neymar, he's still gonna be able to stove the pressure away from these players. Because when Neymar is on the pitch wearing a Brazil jersey, all the pressure, all the criticism, all the vitriol, all the hate will go on him. And that's something that Neymar has been used to, having to deal with on the shoulders. So maybe he can ease it for the rest of the Brazilian players, and he can be that leader for them. And a Neymar Jr., which I think, with the age, with the time off, is going to be he's going to be more mature. He's going to be more of a leader. I do think, this Brazilian national team have an opportunity to create something going forward into the World Cup. But it needs to start from here, and it's beyond massive that Brazil wins this, because you don't want to, you don't win these 2 games because you don't want to put it off way, way, way too long. That's how good teams don't make the World Cup, where they slip up early and they're leaving it till too late, in which they're trying to drag themselves out of a hole. No, Brazil needs to nip it in the bud now. They need to win these 6 games. They need to climb themselves up the table, and they need to, settle the deal and make sure that they're not in any room for, for potential, mistakes down the line. But yeah, short break here coming up though. When we come back, we will discuss the Pochettino, the U.S. men's national team.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed how big this World Cup qualifying window is for Brazil. We move on to react to Pochettino's training session, already becoming more intense. according to Anthony Robinson. So Mauricio Pochettino, he's doing his first training sessions with the U.S. men's national team. Since he was officially announced a few weeks ago, and apparently it was a tough and intense training session. We know the style of play that Pochettino has. It's a high energy level of football. High intensity pressing, playing a high line, playing out of the back, the modern way of football, and they want to play. Mauricio Pochettino wants to play good, pleasing, attacking football, and it's a very, very intense sort of thing, and it is and it's gonna be interesting how Pochettino can deliver these tactics, deliver this approach to this in short intervals of time that he does, because this is his first time with the international team. I do have to say Nagelsmann, not exactly the same, but similar style of play to Pochettino. He was able to install his tactics and preparation into Germany in a short matter of span, and he made them a dangerous outfit in the European Championship, I do have to say. So there is that, and that's also Julian Nagelsmann, who never managed at the international level. So I have optimism, I do have to say, because number one, we have a real manager. With the Greg Berhalter, we didn't have a proper manager. We have a proper manager now. There's no two ways about it. We have a manager in which he understands tactics, he understands player personnel. He understands, he's going to be able to make in-game adjustments, no daft decisions. He'll make the right substitutions. He'll, the mentality, he'll fix any mentality issues amongst the team. That in itself is just a huge, huge upgrade over Pochettino. Over Greg Berhalter. Simple as that. And I'm looking forward to seeing this team that, now for the first time, since Berhalter been in, I do have to say, I didn't really have much of that joy when the U.S. men's international team was coming up. The international window was coming up. I didn't have much joy. The Copa America, I do have to say, entering 2016 Copa America, huge, huge joy. I was so excited. When it comes to that 2024 Copa America, I wasn't excited at all. I was not excited at all. In my mind, I already knew the outcome before it even began. And Greg Berhalter, he sucked the life out of it for me. And not only Pochettino is a brilliant manager, but he also brings some hope for us U.S. men's national team fans. He brings hope. He brings the excitement back. I think he'll fix the mentality issues in the team that was prevalent in that Copa America. We know the issues that they had. The mentality issues. In fact, players like Christian Pulisic called it out afterwards. There's a huge problem, and there was a huge problem, and I think that's something Pochettino will nip in the bud, and he'll fix it. And Pochettino has some, good players as well. He has Christian Pulisic, playing the best football of his career. We have a Weston McKennie, who's still the best midfield player we have, who's starting to get more and more, on the right side with Thiago Motta at Juventus. Getting a little bit more comfortable with him. The U.S. men's national team has Yunus Musa playing for AC Milan, has Pepe, Valérien Balogun. There's real quality now with the U.S. men's national team in this international break. A lot of injuries to some key players. Tyler Adams, Sergino Dest. We know with him it's a longer term injury with that. Cameron Carter-Vickers. In fact, not just Cameron Carter-Vickers. There was Cameron Carter-Vickers, and then there was a second center half. I believe Chris Richards is actually also out for this international window. I believe so. Yeah, I think it's Chris Richards. Chris Richards with a hamstring injury. Chris Richards, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Valérien Balogun. A lot of key injuries that the U.S. has. So obviously Pochettino, he's not going to have the full set of players, and it's a little bit of a pity because, you know, you want everybody to be in this at least the first camp. You want, you know, more time the players have with Pochettino. The quicker that they'll be able to pick up the tactics, that they'll pick up exactly what Pochettino wants and expects from them. So obviously from that element, it's a pity, but it also gives a chance for these other, you know, players that maybe wouldn't have that opportunity to impress Mauricio Pochettino and to show him what they got. I do have to say, I think Tyler Adams, that's a player I think Pochettino will really, really love. The energy he has in midfield. But the problem with Tyler Adams is he's been out for so long, and he's just not on the field enough. And he's said to be almost ready for Bournemouth return, but it's just almost a feeling of, okay, then what's going to come next? And that's a pity as well, because Tyler Adams, that is a perfect player for Pochettino, because he'll do the defensive work in there. He's capable for dropping in between the center halves and doing the defensive work. He's capable of protecting fullbacks, pushing up the field, covering their spaces. You know, in midfield, doesn't have the most quality, but isn't, you know, in terms of, you know, dictating play as a number 6, he's nowhere near the likes of a Rodri or, you know, or Zubin Mendy or anything like that. But he has defensive work rate to him, and he's comfortable on the ball. You know, he's able to drive the ball forward. He doesn't give you much in terms of his passing range and his, you know, just pure technical ability. But man, he's a hard worker, and he's defensively perfect in front of a back four to protect them, especially if you're going to play this high intensity style of play. Tyler Adams has the lungs to play that. But can he stay on the field? Is he the same player that he was before all these injuries? That remains to be seen. And there's no surprise that the training sessions have been more intense. What did we expect? We've seen the way Chelsea play. We've seen the way Tottenham play. Under Mauricio Pochettino, they have that intensity. And it's Mauricio Pochettino's calling card, and it's what made him the manager that he is today. Now, I do want to know if he'll dial down how intense this style of play is, because number one, when you have players at the club, you know, you can get everybody's fitness levels to the proper level to what is expected of the way Pochettino wants to play. But with them playing in, you know, when this being an international team and you're having short intervals with them, he's not going to be able to get these players at the fitness level like he was able to do at Tottenham in preseason. Doesn't really have a 6-week preseason to get these U.S. men's national team at peak fitness levels to be able to play this system. So is he going to dial it back because of that? Is he also going to dial back certain things because of the personnel? Again, you know, the U.S. men's national team in terms of quality, is at a good point in their history, but they don't have the quality of a Tottenham, Chelsea, PSG, you know? So with that, does that affect the way he goes about it affects the way that they go after it in these games? That's also a real big question I have. And on top of that, the U.S. men's national team, they don't have center halves that are comfortable on the ball besides Tim Ream, who's pretty decent, and they definitely don't have a goalkeeper who's comfortable on the ball. Pochettino does like playing out of the back. Is that something he's willing to adapt on, to be willing to go long? There's a lot of questions that remains to be seen, and I'm looking forward to these games against Panama and Mexico to see, so we can see it. I have to be 100% honest. I'm excited for the U.S. men's national team, and I have been able to say that for a while. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will react to some of the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we discussed Pochettino's training sessions. Are they becoming more intense? We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines. We start off with the retirement from the great Andres Iniesta. Quite simply, one of the best players I've seen play the game of football in my lifetime. Now, obviously, I'm 20 years old. I turned 21 in 17 days, October 26th. It's October 9th technically right now, but we're past midnight. So, okay, in 17 days, I turned 21. So, not relatively the longest life up to this point. Hopefully, God willing, I have a lot more years to come. But going back to it though, just quite frankly, one of the best players I've ever seen. His ability to keep the ball in midfield, the way he dictates the tempo. I mean, what can he not do? Andres Iniesta. When I think about Andres Iniesta, I think about quality, I think about footballing IQ, I think about being at the right place at the right time, scoring the goals, having the big moments, dictating play, pure technique, ability to drive with the ball, ability to play in tight spaces, have wonderful skill, have that Brazilian flair about him, but also have the technique of the tiki-taka, of great passing. He could pass great, he could dribble great, he could play in tight spaces, he could, make late runs and get goals. You saw he got big goals as well, scored a winning goal in the World Cup final, have some big goals in the Champions League for Barcelona. I mean, what can he not do? He's just a great player, and could probably say he's the greatest Spanish national team player of all time, and that's a heavy that's not a heavy thing to say, but that's a heavy accomplishment because of you think about the players that the Spanish national team has had: Xavi, Casillas, David Villa, Sergio Ramos, Busquets, Carlos Puyol, Raúl, Piqué, Fernando Torres, David Silva, Cesc Fabregas. But this is by the way, these are all players that the Spanish national team have had within the last 20 years, and it just shows the quality is just unbelievable with the Spanish national team. And salute to Andres Iniesta, just such a quality player, such a talent. And it doesn't get much more iconic than a winning goal in a World Cup final, in the first African World Cup as well in South Africa. It was my first World Cup that I ever watched, so it has a special moment in my heart as well. Seeing Andres Iniesta, me being at my cousin's house watching that game, seeing Iniesta with the winning goal. I was a huge Spanish national team fan for that final because they were going up against a Netherlands team that knocked out Brazil, my team, in the quarterfinals. That left me heartbroken on the floor of my cousin's house in tears in that game. Talking about that Brazil game, a few days later, turning into a huge Spain fan as they took on the Netherlands. It's just what a goal, what a player, and what a career he's had. He really is, and he was part of the greatest midfield of all time, playing alongside the likes of Xavi and Busquets at Barcelona. It's pretty much the greatest midfield of all time. So great career, magnificent career, and hopefully he enjoys his retirement. Chicago has named U.S. MNT's Greg Berhalter as head coach. Not just head coach, but also director of football, which is He's going to oversee all the technical aspects of Chicago Fire, and he'll also manage the national team. Greg Berhalter said, "I am honored to be named Director of Football and Head Coach of the Chicago Fire, and I would like to thank Joe Mansueto for his trust." Berhalter said Chicago is an incredible city with a true love for the sport, and it's become home to me and my family over the last 6 years. I share Joe's vision of transforming the Fire into a world-class organization that our fans in the city can be proud of, and I look forward to working alongside our staff and players to achieve our goals. Whenever Mansueto was speaking about the decision to bring in Berhalter, he said, "After a thorough and detailed search that includes a number..." By the way, that's Joe Mansueto is the Chicago Fire owner and chairman. "After a thorough and detailed search that included a number of exceptional candidates, it became clear that Greg Berhalter was the right choice to lead our sporting operations. His previous success in MLS, where he thrived in a dual role, and his experience leading the U.S. men's national team over the last 5 plus years makes him an ideal fit for our vision for the club moving forward." Not much comments there. I think my reaction tells a story. Wayne Rooney charged with misconduct over a red card, the Plymouth red card. So Wayne Rooney, he's been charged with misconduct by the English FA over his behavior before and after being shown a red card during Plymouth Argyle's win over Blackburn Rovers. He was given a red card for kicking a bottle into the crowd when he got really frustrated with Blackburn's equalizing goal. A statement shared by the FA said the manager's conduct in the 87th minute was allegedly improper and/or being abusive and/or insulting towards the match official. It's further alleged that his conduct after being dismissed was improper and/or violent. It is also alleged that by returning to the field of play after being dismissed, his behavior was improper. So yes, Wayne Rooney, he will be charged with. He's been charged by the FA. Chelsea and Forest, they've also been charged by the FA over the pitch side melee. They've both been charged by the FA after the fight broke out between the players. Nico Williams, he actually sparked the entire confrontation with the challenge that he had in Marc Cucurella, which sent him into the technical area, and he upended Enzo Maresca, and that led to a lot of players, getting frustrated at melee. Some players came off the bench, which, by the way, it's that's in American sports no, especially in basketball. A player leaves his bench, he's getting automatically suspended. That's something that they need to look at. You want to prevent these melees going forward. You might you might want to limit the players' ability to leave the bench. But yeah, it got out of control. It saw the game in general saw 11 yellow cards. It was a really, really aggressive game and fun game to watch. If you're a neutral, I do have to say, for me, it was a little nerve-wracking down the stretch as a Chelsea fan. But if you're a neutral, you would have probably enjoyed that game because, drama, goals, good attacking football on both sides, both teams going after it. It's great to see. Manchester City's director Bejeristin Stein is gonna leave after the season, sources say. Their director of football is set to leave the club at the end of the season. He's been a huge part. He arrived at Man City in 2012. 12 years later, 13 years later, at the end of the season, he'll leave. He was the manager that appointed Pep Guardiola. He was involved in appointing Pep Guardiola. And yeah, that's there's a lot of talks with with the 115 cases. There's some conspiracy theorists out there, but I'm not gonna be one of them. And he will be leaving United. Thank you guys, though, for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go.